Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome back to BackPocketGameReviews. I still feel sick, so bear with me on this. It is a sinus cold, so my head is kind of all out there. So if I jump a little all over the place, I apologize now. We are going to talk about the Madden shooting, though. A lot of you have already heard about this event, and I waited to cover it because I wanted more information, which I got yesterday. Yay! We'll get into that in a second, though. So what happened was this individual lost in a Madden tournament that he was playing in, and he decided to shoot up the tournament using a pistol. The caliber of the pistol I've not been confirmed, but I do know that from the reports I've read, he owns a 9mm or a .45 pistol. It could be one or the other. It had 12 shots in it, so that doesn't narrow it down either. He shot through one magazine of this. There were a total of 11 people shot, so I don't know if he missed a shot or if all 12 were fired. I tried to watch the live stream and count, but it's very hard to count the amount of shots with the amount of panic that's going on in that stream. You get very easily distracted and feel terrible about what you are watching. So he shot two people. One of the gentlemen was someone who has won the tournament before, and he was also a father of some younger kids. Supposedly he also tried to protect some of the younger contestants in the shooting, which is good for him. Seriously, he gave his life to try to save younger lives. A lot of people are saying that he targeted people. I don't know. I don't think anyone honestly will know if he targeted specific people, but 11 people injured, 2 dead. Right? I think that's right. No, it was 9 injured, 2 dead. 3 dead if you include him, but I don't really agree with including him in that particular death count because he killed himself. And honestly, at that point, it might have been the better option. So, the reason why I wanted to wait, and why I'm happy I waited, is because it is now known that he had a lot of mental health issues. He was also on antipsychotic medication at one point. Cops have been called to his house from 1993 to 2004, a total of 26 times for altercations between him and his mother, among other things. For some reason, that's information that no one wants to fully provide, and I understand that it's to protect. He was a minor at the time, so I get it. He was 24 at the time of the shooting. I will not say his name either, because I don't feel that people like this deserve that kind of attention. The topic needs to be talked about, but him himself does not deserve the whole any kind of fame or infamy that would be tied to it. So, both of his parents also worked for the federal government. His dad worked for NASA, and he has also been admitted into mental institutions a couple different times. So this kid has a history. I call him a kid because 24 is still a kid comparatively to me. He has a history of mental health problems. So how did he get a gun? He lives in Maryland, which is one of the stricter states gun law-wise. They do have for you to get a pistol, you have to pass a license, submit fingerprints, and do a background check and all of that. Well, so technically, if you actually have mental health problems, you can get denied the purchase of a firearm if a judge educates you mentally, saying, hey, this person should not be allowed to own firearms. They are a menace to themselves or others. Unfortunately, that was never done with this kid, despite all of his run-ins with the law and all of his run-ins with, psychiatrists and other mental health specialists. Now, obviously, if you're taking an antipsychotic, you are probably someone who shouldn't be allowed to own a firearm. And it kind of shocks me that he was able to get one, because the laws in my state are relatively lax comparatively. I live in Ohio. It's relatively easy to get a firearm. You don't have to get a license to own a pistol. You just have to be over the age of 21. To concealed carry a pistol, you do have to get a license, and you do have to pass a training class, which is a full 9-hour training class, by the way. But there's someone who was locally bashing one of my local firearm stores because they were in the military and they were denied recently because they have PTSD. So when they ran the background check, it came back and denied them the right to purchase a firearm. They worded it as the store did it, but that would be something that comes back on the federal background check as, hey, this person has PTSD. Well, medical records are sealed. If you were in the military and something like PTSD or something like that is documented on there, that usually does show up on a firearm purchase. Now, there are a lot of balls that were dropped here, whether we want to pit this on why wasn't he educated, why was he able to buy a firearm. Even if you look at a lot of the other shootings, like the church shooting that took place in Texas that was stopped by the NRA instructor, the dude was the NRA instructor, literally shot the guy between his body armor right in the side. It's a pretty impressive shot, especially when he was probably about 100 yards or more away. So, this was done with a pistol. This wasn't done with any kind of high capacity magazine or even done with any kind of what the media would have you believe is an assault rifle, which we'll get to that topic at another point. That is not a part of this discussion. It also happened in what is a gun-free zone in a Jacksonville, Florida mall. So, my issue with gun-free zones, and a big part of what I see as being the problem here, is when you create a gun-free zone, I understand there are certain areas that guns shouldn't be in, but if you're worried about someone sneaking in a gun to commit a crime, and you create a gun-free zone, do you think the criminal is just like, man, I was gonna shoot someone today, but that's a gun-free zone, I better not bring my gun in there? Okay, probably not. The person who is going to leave their firearm in their vehicle, or not bring it with them if they know they're going to an area that is a gun-free zone, is the law-abiding citizen. So someone like me who legally has my concealed carry, but that's the even weirder part here, is this guy did have his concealed carry. He did legally obtain his firearms. There's no real easy way to point the finger or pit the blame. And I'm not even saying that if that wasn't a gun-free zone, someone would have had a firearm to stop him. I don't know. I can't give you a guarantee on that. I can give you a guarantee if it wasn't a gun-free zone and I were there, I would have my pistol on me, because I carry everywhere that allows me to carry. But laws typically only stop law-abiding citizens. Laws don't prevent crimes. I do agree murder should be illegal. So like when I say that sometimes creating laws doesn't prevent the issue, murder should be illegal because the person who listens to the law, but typically the person who probably already abides to the law probably wouldn't have shot someone to begin with unless it was in self-defense. Like, I would never go out to shoot someone. I would shoot someone in defense of my family or myself. Those are the only instances I ever intend on possibly ever having to use my gun, and I really hope I never have to use it for that purpose. But it is kind of crazy to think that with all of this guy's mental health history, he was still able to buy a firearm that easily. I mean, you gotta think of it this way. If someone has a felony, they can't buy it. If someone was dishonorably discharged from the military, they can't buy a firearm. There are a lot of things that prevent that, and I feel like everything there should have been able to stop this guy from being able to purchase one and follow out and commit the acts that he did. It's really sad. Because gaming events typically don't have these kinds of incidences. This is a pretty rare one. I'm sure that we're going to hear plenty of the whole, oh, violent video games had a part to play in this, which I really haven't heard that much of to begin with. And actually, a lot of the talks about the shooting itself have kind of died down. Typically because here's what both sides want. The right typically wants to blame the video game or some other thing other than the firearm, and the left wants to blame firearms that they feel people shouldn't own. A pistol is typically very accepted to be owned by an individual. That's not one that you typically hear people freaking out about. It's just like the one school shooting that happened with a revolver and a shotgun, and I mean, that dude put up some crazy numbers on death toll. So if it doesn't fit the narrative of either side, it typically doesn't get talked about as much as it used to. At least not on television. Now granted, I don't watch a lot of television, but a lot of my friends do, and I talk to them about this stuff, and a lot of them have not followed this situation. I read a lot. It's how I get most of my news. So, I don't know. I feel it was a pretty screwy situation. One of the most shocking tragedies just because of how it played out. I don't really feel that there's any one thing that would have prevented this, except for him not being allowed to own a firearm, because he was insane. That probably would have fixed it. And look, even if he didn't own a firearm, I'm not saying he couldn't have found another way to kill people. You can look at the McSkillet incident. We talked about the McSkillet thing, where he drove head-on at 100 miles an hour on the opposite side of the road. Killed daughter and her mom. Yeah, so people who have evil intentions will typically find a way to commit those evil intentions either way. He killed as many people as this dude did with the gun. We've had instances of people driving through crowds of people. We live in a really shitty world, and part of it's because of this constant attention to these topics, and a lot of people think that, oh, we have more of these tragedies that are going on. We don't. Your brain actually is just wired that the more it's talked about, the more you think it's happening. So it could be the same incident, but the more it keeps getting talked about, the more you feel these incidences are happening. Again, I read all of my news. I actually read a lot of NPR too. So if any of you have any questions or have anything you would like to add to this conversation, I would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts about this, and let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you want to follow me anywhere else, you can find those all in the description box. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up. You can click subscribe and all that stuff. Sorry, I still don't feel well, so I will have plenty more content coming for you guys, and stick around.